now going to move on to the next section. So that was exercise 1. Now go to exercise 2, shared state. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to be introducing a traffic light. And this is what we are going to be doing for now. I know Amber is missing. We will deal with Amber later. But in this instance, we're going to make the traffic light synchronize with the pedestrian light. And as you can see, we've got 2 states of traffic light, stop and go. And what we are going to be doing just for the time being is we're going to take the question we've asked for isSafeToCross for our pedestrian light and apply that to our traffic light. So as you can see, is it safe to cross? We've got our conditions for the red man and the green man, but for the red traffic light and the green traffic light, as you saw earlier, is the inverse. So how do we do that? I think we could say that we can have our traffic light read the values from our pedestrian light, but we can't do that. So state can't be shared horizontally. The way to the way for a pedestrian light and a traffic light to be in sync with each other is to have a parent widget and then read the state from that parent. So you can think of state like a tree. So what we can do is we can move our isSafeToCross property to a parent so that it could be passed down to the pedestrian and the traffic light, pedestrian light and traffic light. And as a side note, because of that, pedestrian light and traffic light would no longer need to be stateful widgets. They're reading their state from the parent. There are instances where a widget can have its own internal state and also read from the parent. That does happen, that's possible. But in this instance, it's not necessary. And this concept is called lifting state up. And again, a definition lifted from React, the React website, because React has similar concepts. If you don't know what React is, it's basically the web version of what we're doing. So what is lifting state up? Often several components need to reflect the same change in data. The shared state is lifted up to their closest common ancestor. So let's start the exercise and I'll explain a little bit more in code. Cool. So yeah, I'm just going to go to the worksheet again. Cool. Yeah, so we talked about having a parent state. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to collapse this by clicking on the arrows here, is we're going to have our pedestrian light widget. We're going to have our brand new traffic light widget. Currently, MyApp is the parent. Now, we can make MyApp a stateful widget, and then what we can do is we can move isSafeToCross to MyApp. But generally speaking,
Roberta, sorry, I just want to touch on why MyApp is the parent and how that hierarchy passes down.
Yeah. So what we have is you can think of every widget as a hierarchy. So pedestrian light is a child of center, which is a child of container, which is a child of this single child scroll view to control the scrolling. It's not relevant here. Safe area is just to make sure everything doesn't go to yeah, go to the top of the screen just so that it doesn't overlap with the system icon. But long story short, our widgets are essentially just a tree. They're just, so every widget has a parent, and the root is here. So in our main, in main, we have a run app function which is invoked with our root widget. And in this instance, our root widget is called MyApp. It can be called anything, but it's called MyApp. So here, what we're returning here is we're returning a child, and then inside material app we can pass in other widgets which can be added to our widget tree within that widget. It might not make sense, but I think just I think the simplest way to think about this is just think of a Russian doll. So I don't know if all of you have seen these Russian dolls where you have the bigger doll and then you open it up, and then you have another doll, and then you open it up, and then you have another doll. I think it would be fun to think of widgets. I just need some This is what happens when a Netflix show happens. This is what happens when you've got a Netflix show. Cool. Yeah. So you've probably seen. You see, if I thought of this analogy earlier, I would have had a good image prepared. Yeah, but I think most of you will probably have seen this. But you could put a doll in. Here we go. You could put a doll inside a doll inside a doll inside a doll inside a doll. So these are all, yeah, there's a little doll, and then another doll, and then another doll, another doll, another doll, another doll, and then you've got the biggest one here. So the biggest one is our root, and then you could put another doll in, another doll in, another doll in, and each doll represents is a widget, with the root itself being a widget. So just to go back to our code here. I say PedestrianLight is a parent of material app. I'm using that quite loosely. It's an ancestor. It's not a direct parent, it is an ancestor, but you might hear the terms used interchangeably. But what I essentially mean is that material app is higher up in the hierarchy than PedestrianLight. And how you would, if you've got a material app, you'll specify what your home page is. Scaffold will set up page specific elements, so you know your app bar text, and then and then we've got and then a few other things for display, and then we've got a PedestrianLight. Cool. Okay, so going back to what I was saying before. I want to move. I would like to move. You can move this StatelessWidget to MyApp, make it a stateful widget. That's fine, but generally speaking, I don't like having. I would rather separate that code out and create a new parent And the reason is that if we go back to what Jason was saying earlier about trying to model real life, the MyApp is supposed to just be about setting up our Flutter app. It's got nothing to do with our model. So in this instance, what I consider to be the parent would be a crossing, because a crossing contains both a pedestrian light and a traffic light. So going back to the workbook, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new stateful widget called crossing, and then that will be our parent. And so actually, let's go back. Cool. Yes, generally good practice to keep my app responsible for only general app settings. Cool, so let's do that. Let's do part one. Just going to expand that. Cool. So again, just going to create our stateful widget. So class, you know what, I'm going to be lazy. You can be lazy as well. Be as lazy as you want. It's the best way to learn or to feel comfortable. So I'm just going to, yeah, just take this part here, copy and paste. Yes, cool. So I've got my duplicate here. I'm just going to change the name from PedestrianLight to crossing. So there is like a cool shortcut that you can do. I can highlight this and then just do Command D, Command D, Command D, and then that will highlight everything every time I press Command D. I'm going to stop there because I don't want to change my actual pedestrian light. You don't have to use a shortcut. It's just something that I do. Cool. Great. So what I've done is I've created a new stateful widget called crossing. But oh no, this is underlined. And why is that? It's underlined because I need a build method. So again, this is a shortcut from Visual Studio Code. Your code editor might have something similar. If your code editor doesn't have anything, if you use a Dartpad, then you can copy and paste from PedestrianLight state and just delete everything inside. Cool. So yeah, we've got our crossing state. So these two classes here makes up our crossing stateful widget. And the next thing is that we're going to return just the pedestrian light. Turn pedestrian light, and we want to return the widget itself, not the widget state. We always want to do that. Cool, so we've done that, but nothing's going to change. And the reason is because we haven't added, well, apart from this being reset, but the reason is that we haven't added crossing to our tree. And I say nothing's going to change. This is a bit of a misnomer, because really the key test to make sure this is working is that everything remains the same. Cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to replace pedestrian light with crossing. So now the child that we have is crossing, and which contains our pedestrian light, which contains our pedestrian light implementation here. So if I refresh, everything should still be the same. I press to cross, and there we go. Cool. So that's part A. Now for part B, we're going to add the traffic light. Cool. Now we're going to create a new widget called
Roberta,
TrafficLight.
just a quick one. Do you want to share your code maybe in your shared documents, for those people, some people might not have been able to catch what you just did there.
Yeah, actually, you know what?
Doc, and then they can just grab it.
You've got links to this, haven't you, Roberta?
I have, but actually I don't have a link to part A or part B, actually. But I can create one. I can just do something very, very quickly.
I mean, I've clicked.
Those who can't follow can just do it.
Okay. Sorry about that.
There is a link on the. Shall I post it?
Oh, you've got a link.
Yeah, you've provided a link to exercise.
No,
2.
sorry, I don't have one that includes just the crossing. So I'm just creating one now.
Oh, okay, okay. I think your link has everything. It has traffic lights.
Yeah, so I've got so the links at the bottom are for the complete parts, but it's not for the interim parts. So okay. I've just copied and pasted the one for solution 2. Sorry, the one for 2A rather. Did I call it 2A? Yes. And what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to add it to the worksheet. The worksheet is a live document, so you should be able to see it. Cool.
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to make it, put the link, make it in Dartpad as well. Use Dartpad. Yeah, that's another tip. If you want to save your code in Dartpad, copy it into Gist. So Gist is a subset of GitHub where you can host code snippets, and then what you can do is this number here, this ID here in the URL, it's the same ID for Gist as it is that's in Dartpad. So you saw that I had my Gist here. What you can do is you can just if you want to open it in Dartpad, you can just simply replace it with Dartpad dev, and then it will work exactly the same. Oops. Let's make a link first. Yeah, just a little tip, but yeah, this is So yeah, feel free to use that code here. Cool. So moving on, we have So the next thing that we're going to do is we are now going to add the TrafficLight. So what we're going to do is I'm not going to copy and paste this, and the reason is because we're making a stateless widget. Remember going back that I said that because the TrafficLight and the PedestrianLight are reading from their parent, they don't need to be stateful. So I'm just going to make this a stateless widget from the get-go. We are going to make PedestrianLight a stateless widget soon. Now, let's just make this a stateless widget. And the good news is that stateless widgets are far more simple. That's it. Yeah. And let's add the build function here. Cool. And again, because I'm lazy, I'm going to go to my PedestrianLight state, and I want to take all of this code here and then copy and paste it. So I just want to take well, actually, I can probably take the entire build method here. So let me just copy and replace that. Actually, I didn't actually need to. Cool. So let's remove that. Here we go. That's great. A few things we don't need. Oh, we've got some errors here, and that's because we don't have an isSafeToCross. We'll get to that in a minute. So let's just remove this for now and just fix the code. We're just going to fix the errors for now. We don't care about how it looks like. onPressed is not there, but we don't need the button, so we can remove the button here. Cool. And now the next, it's not now. If I refresh, it's not going to show up. Why? Because I did not add it to my tree. So just going to go to TrafficLight here. Not TrafficLight, sorry. I'm going to go to crossing rather. And what I want to do is I actually want to return multiple widgets. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to wrap it around a column or a row widget. And what these widgets would allow you to do is they allow you to arrange multiple widgets in a row or in a column. So I'm going to I'm going to start off with a column. So this is why I like Visual Studio Code. I can if I right click on this, or if I, sorry, not right click, if I click on this, I tell you why I keep on getting these keyboard commands wrong is because if you do it long enough, it becomes second nature. And then when you have to think about it, it goes away from your head. So if you click on PedestrianLight, you should see the little light bulb here. And then I can select wrap with column. And then, oh, look.
Oh, wrap with widget.
Yes. So it does it automatically. You can do this manually if you want. You can actually, you know, do something like, let me remove PedestrianLight. You can do something like column and then let autocomplete do it for you. I don't know why that didn't work. It's okay. Yeah. Now you can, and then you've got your children here. Cool. So yeah, the benefit of that, it allows you to specify multiple children. So I add my PedestrianLight, and then I'm going to add my TrafficLight. Cool. Let me just save that, and then do a, yeah. So I mean, it's because I directly copied the code, which is why you see two pedestrian lights. But let's make this look more like a traffic light. So I'm going to go to my traffic light here, and what can I do now? A traffic light, the traffic light is solid, so you know, I don't even need the child actually. What I can do is I can just change the color. So I'm going to change the color. I'm going to use the material colors. So let me remove my colors here and just use colors and then make that red. So then if I just do select on, type R on the terminal. Oh, cool. So we got our red light. And then let's do the same for the green one. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the, not use, yeah, this is my own class. It's a nice little trick here if you want to specify your own set of colors. I could put this in directly, but it's just cleaner this way. Yes, and then here we go. And because I just want to put the amber for now, just as a placeholder, I'm just going to copy one of the circles, put that in between, and then change the color to amber. And I love the fact that the colors are named as well. And you know, just makes, if you want a quick color, then yeah, it's a nice starting point. Cool. So we got our traffic light. Just going to make this look a bit nicer. Probably going to use a row widget here. because I just feel like using a row instead of a column. So here we've changed that. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to add a bit of spacing as well. There are several ways of doing this, but I'm going to wrap it with, I'm going to wrap with the TrafficLight, the padding widget here. Just going to make the padding. Yeah, and then what I want to do is I only want to apply the padding to the to the left here, because I just want to create space here. So I added my padding to my TrafficLight only. So here, edge inserts is where you add paddings and margins as well, but you can add the same value throughout. You can go from left, top, right, bottom. Symmetric, which means you can specify horizontal and vertical at the same time. And I'm going to do only here. I think I did symmetric at one point as well, which is still valuable. So specifying what side. Left, only left. 32. Here we go. And then if I want to make it aligned at the top, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say, yeah. So just to explain about main axis alignment and cross axis alignment rather. So main axis alignment is how you will arrange your items alongside the main axis. And to describe what the main axis is that if you have a row, your main axis is a horizontal line, because a row is horizontal. If you're using the column, the main axis is a line going vertically down, because that's the direction of a column. And then the cross-axis alignment is the opposite. But for me, what I want to do is I want to align both of these items to the top. So because it's a horizontal alignment, I'm going to set main axis alignment here, and I'm going to set it to start. And then, unless I've got it wrong, yeah, it's cross-axis alignment. I'm going to be honest, I get this confused all the time. If this happens, just try one or the other. It will work out. It's not because the cross-axis alignment is because it's moving it up or down. Then because the movement is up or down, then that is the then this is why we're using cross-axis alignment. But like I said, if one doesn't work, try another one. It will work out in the end. That's what a lot of devs do. This is actually real life development. Don't expect everybody to know everything. You just figure things out as you go along. So yeah, if you feel like you're not getting things, trial and error, Stack Overflow, it's fine. Even the most experienced do it. Okay. Cool. So we've got our TrafficLight. Great. So now I'm going to move on to part C. What I will do is let me just dig out the code for this. So see all of my guests. I just want to make sure that I have the right one. Do I have, because I did have 2B before. No, I do not have 2B. That's fine. I'll add 2B. Okay, cool. So let's do. Great public guest. Did not name it. I'll rename it later. So just copy that. and then I'll just paste it. I'll just paste it here. Cool. Right. Okay. So yeah, if you want to copy and paste the solution, then yeah, feel free to do so. Actually, let me change it to Dartpad again if you want to see it in action. They're both the same code, so yeah. Cool. Okay, so yeah, this is part 2B done. Now going on to part 2C, which is we're going to change the pedestrian light to use the parent state. And yeah. So the next thing to do is we're finally going to make our pedestrian light our stateless widget. So I think just to be conscious of time, I'm going to speed things through a little bit. I will apologize for that. I will say if there's anything that if you want to go through things more slowly, then feel free to go through the worksheet afterwards, or feel free to copy and paste to start off at a particular jumping point. So cool. So let's just go through the rest of this. All right. So we're going to make PedestrianLight stateless widgets. Okay. Oops. Sorry. Happens when you rush. Okay. What's the simplest way of doing this? Let's just remove this part here. Make this a PedestrianLight extends stateless widget, and then we've got our stateless widget. There are a few things that are wrong. Yeah, set state does not exist on a stateless widget, and that's because set state is not in the base. It's not in our base class stateless widget here. So because it doesn't exist, we're going to, I think what we can do is, just think of what order to do this in. Yeah, we'll get to that in a bit. First thing we're going to do, let's move isSafeToCross to crossing. So the crossing is responsible for that. Okay. Oops, sorry, wrong place. State to make. It should be in that state, always in the state. Cool. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create, turns isSafeToCross into a prop. Yes, that's another thing. Okay. So actually what I shouldn't have probably removed that, and I'll tell you why. So let me bring that back. Cool. Yeah. What I want to, so now that PedestrianLight is a stateless widget, but we still want to know whether it's safe to cross, we're going to allow PedestrianLight to pass in some props. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a constructor here, and this simply will simply define what is passed into the widget. So if I do this dot isSafeToCross, this is a shorthand to say I want to accept a property called isSafeToCross and then set it in a local variable called isSafeToCross. So let me just change this here, final, and I'm going to make it final because it's just generally good practice. Yeah, there we go. And what final means is that it means that it could only be set. It means that once it's set, you can't reset it. So you might have seen final, you might have seen const. Const means you have to set it as soon as you declare it. Final means you can leave it empty to start off with, but once you set it a value, that's it. So we have isSafeToCross. So yeah, so I think what we can do now is we can take this bit out. Now we're going to get to this later, by the way.
So Roberta, you quickly mentioned that you're going to change the constructor. Do you want to just let everybody know what a constructor is? Just a brief description of it.
Yes. So what a constructor is, you can think of a constructor as a default method. So, or the way to think about it is this: when you invoke a class, when you create a class for the first time, then the constructor is invoked with those properties being passed in. So, for instance, the constructor of, well, actually, this is the example. Yeah, so whenever you create, rather, PedestrianLight, then that will invoke the constructor, and then what you can do is you can pass in some properties. You can pass some properties here called you can pass in any property here. The constructor is a full method. It can be a full method, and you can do some logic inside of it. The reason it looks like this is because this isSafeToCross is a shorthand in Flutter to be able to quickly say, okay, whenever I pass in a value, then set this automatically. And this is just really a shorthand. Okay. So, yeah, so here you see that it's complaining now because it's expecting a value. So, I mean, I can actually set it, I can set it to true, or I can set it to false, whatever. The only requirement is that it's a Boolean. Now, because I've moved isSafeToCross here, I can pass it here. So this isSafeToCross, and this, and the one isSafeToCross here, they're completely independent. I could call it ABCD, and then it will still function the same. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to make it descriptive because currently they mean the same thing. So let me, oops, something's wrong. What is wrong? Yes. We're going to get to you in a minute. So this is just to explain that, yeah, this should be working. Is it SafeToCross? No. And then I have to do this manually again. Yeah. sorry, Shift R, capital R, because we're changing the state, once you set the state. Cool. Yeah, so yeah, you kind of saw what happened, that it was complaining that onPressed doesn't exist. And the reason is because, yeah, you know, how can we get PedestrianLight to tell our crossing widget when is it safe to cross? And I think the clue is what I've already done. We can actually pass in the function. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to create another. I'm going to create another variable, find void callback, and void callback just means a function that returns void. Is commonly used in events. So I'm also going to call this onPressed. Again, it could be anything. And I'm just going to say this dot onPressed. And then now what I'm going to do is going to so that this onPressed needs to be moved by our button, and is safe to cross. Oh, it's expecting one more. And you know what? Just so that I'm being more specific, I'm going to call this the PedestrianLight press. PedestrianLight button press, just to be specific. You might see this a lot. And then I'll just pass it here. That's that. So now I do Shift R. Oh, because the initial state is true. That's why. Cool. And when I press, then yeah, it functions as before. So yeah, I mean, this is how our PedestrianLight, which is now a stateless widget, can still exhibit stateful behaviors. And the reason is because the state is in our parent component called crossing. And yeah, just to demonstrate, yeah. So yeah, that's that. And then we're going to do the same for TrafficLight now. Cool. Yeah, so check is still working. Cool. So that's part C. I do have part C available. I'm sorry. I think I did. I was going back and forth as to whether to post the intermediate steps. So I'll just post it here. And yeah. Did Dartpad as well. Cool. Fantastic. Right. So moving on to the final section of part 2. I think we've moved on a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to make the green man and the red man, and the green TrafficLight and the red TrafficLight respond to each other. So this is simple. We're just going to apply what we've learned to implement a TrafficLight, and it should meet the following criteria: the green TrafficLight, turn on green TrafficLight, and the red man PedestrianLight is on. Red TrafficLight for the green man. The amber light will be off for now. We're going to handle that later. And the logic to show how the light might be slightly different to the PedestrianLight. So what we're going to do is we are going to yes. So first of all, let's just, we need TrafficLight to take in our state here. So just going to, I'm going to say final.
Guys, I'd just like to say that singing is a prerequisite to being a coder. So when you
yeah, it does happen. Cool. So we've now added a property to isSafeToCross. So yeah, it's complaining. So we can do the same here. And then now that we've got isSafeToCross, let's use that as before. Because we don't have the icon, we're just going to do something slightly different. We're going to apply similar logic, but we're going to apply it to the color of the circle. So if it is safe to cross, it means the cars were stopped. So we're going to set the light to red, and we can't do null this time. Oh, actually we can, but I don't want to do null because it would just end up being transparent. So I'm just going to say my colors dot, I'm going to make it light gray. Cool. So amber's always going to be off. So for now, so my colors light gray, and then finally for the last one, oops, sorry, is safe to cross. So if it is not safe to cross, then that means that the cars are moving. So we'll do the inverse of that, and then oops, and then we do my colors dot light gray. So now you click on it, it changes. Cool. So yeah, that's the so that is the part 2 done.
do you want to quickly just summarize what you did in that part 2, because I think it was really good actually.
Yeah, so for part 2, what we did is, let me exit that. So what we did in part 2 is that the state that was contained within our pedestrian light has been lifted up and moved to an invisible ancestor or parent state here that could be used by both the pedestrian light and the traffic light. In addition, what we have done is we have shifted the the button here has no awareness of the state. So with the button, we just tell it's as if we're just telling our parent that we pressed the button, that's it. And then so all the responsibility of setting the state has been moved up to the parent crossing widget. Cool.
That's great.
Okay.